Hey, this is Mike Diercksen from Proactive, and you're listening to the Building Byte podcast. Tune in as we spotlight our guest, Adam Stark, co-founder at Jet.Build. Our episode is focusing on simplifying construction technology integration. For more information on this episode and others, please check out the Building Byte at www.buildwithproactive.com. Welcome to the Building Byte podcast, a podcast for construction contractors, owners, and insurance professionals, where you can hear from the experts on key topics to help you be successful. I'm Mike Diercksen, Manager of Marketing and Business Development here at Proactive. And today, our guest is a true innovator, Adam Stark, co-founder of Jet.Build. Adam, how are you doing today?
Mike, doing great. Really happy and excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, likewise. It's going to be a really good one today. So, Adam, before we dive in, though, I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about yourself, how you got to be at Jet.Build, and what led you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I always love starting with our founder story, simply because my co-founder and longtime friend Joseph and I have a long history together. So we started off as childhood enemies, playing each other in high school sports. Then we both end up serving in the Israeli military together. And then we both end up somehow working for developers, different companies, but very similar roles in New York City in very hands-on kind of capacities on job sites. And that was kind of the inception of what led us to recognizing the necessity for our company now, Jet.Build, whereas we were building out this platform, the solution to solve our own pain points.
Yeah. I wonder if you could expand on that a little bit, right? You mentioned the founder story, and definitely a good one. But tell us about that experience, right? You and your partner found yourselves in the construction space, and then what really pushed you to say, like, I could do this better, I could do this differently? Like, was there something, a catalyst that way, or just kind of a collective conversation?
Yeah, definitely. So the catalyst was something that I imagine pretty much everyone in the space feels to some degree at some point, which is administrative tasks. And what I mean by that, it varies across a lot of different topics, but generally speaking, what happened was reminding stakeholders of responsibilities to reply to RFIs and submittals, or it was recognizing that an insurance COI expired or a permit expired. It was collecting data from siloed environments. And what I mean by that is stakeholders sending information to us, working for the developers as PMs, and collecting that information and putting it into our own spreadsheet, right? So it was a lot of scattered, again, like I like to call it, administrative tasks, a lot of scattered data in siloed environments across the project stakeholders that either was taking a lot of time to collect and plug into a central system, or it was simply being forgotten because there's so much happening on a development and construction project. So that was really the catalyst that led us to sit down and say, hey, how are we going to do this better? Like, what can we do that will remove all of this time waste and manual entry, and naturally so error because of manual entry.
Yeah, and I think that dovetails perfectly into the title of our episode today, is simplifying construction technology integration, right? So obviously this is an effort to simplify that process, kind of create a one-size-fits-all, easy-to-use platform. Would you mind sharing that with us a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So our intention here on a macro basis, and then I'll jump into a screen share of some product demo. But the macro concept here is to kind of be a smartphone, right? So you're an iPhone or an Android user, it doesn't matter. You have a smartphone on its basic intention is to cover what you're doing on your day-to-day, right? You got your email, right. You got your messaging, you got calendar, you got a clock, et cetera, right? Now, if you wanted something more robust in any of those niche day-to-day needs, then you go to your app store and you download it. Well, that's kind of the same kind of concept that we built Jet on. Is we're going to cover everything from, construction operations to project accounting to collaboration, pulling that data together and turning that data into an asset, right? And allowing you also to go out to the market and leverage any other tools and integrate that into Jet to be that central hub, be that smartphone for you. I'm going to go ahead and flip to a screen share as well.
And just for the record, I'm an iPhone guy, so none of this green text bubble. I just gotta throw it out there.
Yeah, me too. So we're on the same page there, but no shade to the green text bubble on my end. Those are welcome on Jet. All right, cool. So I just want to make sure you see my screen.
Yep, we're good.
Awesome. So what we're seeing here is your dashboard for a project. We made up this example called FAA expansion. On the left-hand side is going to be your management bar, right? So your command center where you get to flip through a variety of different solutions. But just on a macro basis, you'll see here project applications and overview. That's where we're sitting. Mm-hmm. Below that, you're going to have the 4 modules that Jet's built around, like I mentioned before. So you got your accounting solutions, collaboration solutions, construction solutions, then data reporting. So this overview page is going to pull from all of those solutions and provide this, overview, of course. Got some macro on your budget status, some macro on your construction status. And then below that, it's going to be a calendar. So you can just get an overview of what's happening that week, that day, that month, etc. I'm going to just flip through a few functions, that we're solving for, and just to get a understanding of, how we operate here. So under constructions, I always like to start with submittals and RFIs because I find that as being driving factors for a project, right? If submittals and RFIs aren't being answered on time, then really tough to be moving forward with the project. So first and foremost, you get your dashboard here. You get to see what's open and closed. Beyond that, if you click view open parent submittals, so just in 2 clicks, right, you get to understand what remains open on your project for submittals. And you could go ahead and address those immediately by clicking a chat function. Let me go one step back and click one that's active. Excuse that on our demo. So here's just an example of correspondences, right, that are tied to every function on the product. So what that means is anytime somebody responds to something, it'll be timestamped according to whatever function you're on. So this happens to be a submittal. That could be for a budget. It could be for a payment app, for a schedule item, so on and so forth. Jumping up from construction into collaboration, I'll go into our drawing management tool. Really robust, really easy to use. So here you can see we have some example drawings on the product. I'll select structural. I'm going to select 2 going from issued for bidding, issued for construction. I'm going to run an overlay of those 2 drawings. And what that's doing here is it's going to automatically tell me what changes occurred on this drawing. So it's going to say highlight in turquoise whatever has been added. So that could be from text all the way to the degree of specific details. Excuse me, I'm just highlighting that here. So anything in turquoise, that means it's been added. You could do a ton of things with this solution. You can @mention users, so to notify them that you're asking a question. You could do measurements. You could insert files. You could export drawings. You could link your drawings to RFIs and punch lists. So really robust tool, especially that overlay function, as you run through your project, just quick understanding of what changed. Lastly, I'm going to run into our budgets tool. Our budgets tool also really powerful, really robust. You can create as many budgets as you want. You could roll them up all into a master budget. You could collaborate with your teams accordingly with permission controls. Budgets have the capability of bid management and bid leveling per line item. We also have some really neat AI solutions for generating scope of work. I can run that real quick for you. And beyond that, what's really neat is once you've finalized your budgets, it'll automatically roll into payment application and lender draws, where it will consolidate information into a single package across all of your stakeholders, so long as you issue and collaborate with your stakeholders accordingly. So scrolling all the way down on this payment application, just to show you got line items, you got any contingency allocations, you got all your lien waiver backups, all of your invoices, any additional backups you may want to add. And all of this is shareable via a single URL link. So what I mean by that is live link sharing. So anytime you send someone a URL, they have the ability to refresh that URL, get new information on your project, on whatever it is you're sharing, whether it be a payment app, draw package, whether it be a schedule, a report. So lots of functionality there. And here you're seeing right now this AI generated scope of work for demolition in this example, because I ran it off of the demo line item under bid management. You can interact with it. You could copy and paste it. And this is really supportive of those like administrative functions. And I guess I'll flip to two more pieces. We touched on insurance, so I'm going to go to accounting and insurance here. What you can do here is so neat. You can create as many, insurance accounts as you want. You can collaborate with your teams, with your insurance teams, internal teams, stakeholders. You can log your COIs. Automated reminders are going to go out anywhere you enter a due date or accountability workflows. So lots of automations are occurring in regard to accountability, in regard to transparency over that accountability. So you don't have to any longer somehow remember things like permit management as well. And all of these items, regardless of if you are an account admin or an individual user, under open items, you'll be able to see what you've been assigned to. If you're an individual user, if you're an admin, you get to see, across all of your portfolio and projects, who's responsible for what remains open, lots of search capability. You can refine this to ball in your court to understand what you're responsible for. So tons of functionality. I just ran through that pretty quick. Mike, I could pause if you had any questions on that.
No real questions on that, but I mean, really, it's a powerful solution, and I wonder, without necessarily spilling any trade secrets, how is it that Jet.Build is able to offer a program as robust as this without, really kind of calling for a major premium from the users?
Absolutely. So what's really neat, and kind of going back to that founder story. So Joseph and I started building out this platform for ourselves starting in 2017. And we were really just building out these solutions without an intention of creating a business, without hiring external employees, right? So by the time that we came at Jet ready for it to be a business, that was a few years later, when we accidentally recognized that we had built a few $100 million of construction on the product. It was working really well for us, and that we created this robust end-to-end solution. Bringing it to market at that point, we were able to do so without, extensive overhead, and therefore we can, create a price point that is not gouging our clients, and that we're able to sustain a company accordingly. So just a neat circumstance where, we don't have, this huge back end to need to cover.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And honestly, one of the features that really caught my eye was that drawing function, and ability to track the changes, identify them as part of a change order, and kind of really dialing into that. So what are some of your clients telling you about things like that? Like, are you guys looking to expand on that? Are you kind of just taking input as you go?
Absolutely. So I'll answer that question in a few ways. One is our product roadmap is built specifically on client feedback, and also how we see our customers using the product. So what I mean by that is, of course, client feedback is a simple understanding. Is if a client says, hey, what about XYZ report? That would work really well for us. Or what about adding a workflow to this solution? So we take that and we'll provide them with a real timeline for our implementation. And really neat is we average a 10-day turnaround to implement that feedback, which is a nice outcome of working with new technology. We just have the agility to implement and innovate quickly. And then in terms of looking at how clients use the product, customers use the product, and innovating accordingly, is we'll see, if, for example, on submittals, this was a way that we used our data to create a more intuitive product, where we originally built submittals with a second layer, thinking that clients would have more versions to them. However, we recognized that after $3 billion plus of construction, clients were typically having plus minus 3 versions, and therefore we removed a layer, allowed for submittals to be managed on one landing page rather than having a second. And that just created a more intuitive UI, UX, user experience and interface. So that's just an example of how we study our backend data. And moving beyond that, in terms of the drawing tool, that was actually one of the largest gaps that we closed since focusing on Jet full time. And that was caused by feedback from clients and potential clients, just understanding that that was a tool that was so relevant for their day-to-day use, especially as it related to closing out RFIs and being able to link RFIs and, like you pointed out, change orders to specific changes on the plans, linking punch lists to specific drawing sheets to close out projects. So we were able to prioritize that and implement the drawing tool based on the needs of our customers. And in terms of innovating, what we're looking at and really excited about, don't yet have a timeline for this, but we've been testing AI's implementation on drawing management tool with the intention of having the ability to essentially search within your drawings using AI. So to say, hey, understand where XYZ sheet lives in this drawing set, or understand what change occurred between drawing sets. So a little bit more robust functionality further than, just the simple overlay that we have already.
Yeah, no, that's certainly expanding on that. That's an awesome thing to hear. I mean, certainly from an insurance and risk mitigation standpoint, this kind of documentation and that level of communication is a welcome thing for any project team, right? To be able to pinpoint exactly what we're talking about and then disseminate that information to all the various stakeholders. I wonder, you mentioned getting feedback from your clients, prospective clients. Is it just the end users themselves, or is it kind of their partners as well? Because I could easily see how the risk management team, as opposed to the builders within that GC, would go, hey, we want X functionality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, exactly to your point, is we encourage that feedback from all users, and to kind of further our ability to gain that feedback is what we offer at the time of onboarding is we'll tell the license holder, the client, which typically is either the builder or the GC or the general contractor. We'll tell them, hey, if you want us to onboard your external stakeholders, we offer that as a part of the activation package. Reason being is, that supports in the collective use and everybody actually onboarding and using the product to the extent that it exists and that it could support the process. So when we onboard those external teams, if it's, for example, the insurance team like you brought up, then that gives us the connection point with that team and the ability to tell them directly, hey, you're getting onboarded for the insurance module. If you have we're running through the functionality of this, you have any questions up front, amazing, tell us. If you have any questions in a month from now, 2 months from now, whatever it may be, please reach out. It'd be great to hear that feedback and to implement accordingly. So our intention is really to essentially pool best practices from all teams across the globe, and then allow for end users to leverage those best practices.
Excellent. Adam, I mean, this has been a really impressive conversation so far. I think it'd be great value to our audience. We typically like to ask for 3 takeaways, right? So if I'm listening today and there were 3 big things you'd want the audience to leave this conversation with, what do you think those 3 things should be?
Yeah, great question. So, I'm going to take one step back and then forward to answer.
Sure.
The step back is going to touch on friction that I generally come across in companies adopting technology, which tends to be the preconceived notion of technology being difficult to implement, being a heavy lift and a heavy cost. So I bring those up to say, and to address now your question in terms of my takeaways is, if you're a leader in your company, or even if you're not a leader, right, you should ask internally, search internally to understand what values surround or lack of values surround innovation, seeking innovation for your team and for your company. That's one. 2 is to recognize that solutions exist today that are cost effective and intuitive to use. Going back to that, iPhone or Android example, right? You don't need some heavy lift to get a new phone. You don't need some certificate to get a new phone, and relatively so, it's cost effective, right? So recognize that new tech today is enabling companies to adopt technology quickly in a cost effective manner. And I guess, lastly is to say it's all kind of connected to the same concept here. And lastly is to say that check internally with your teams what can be automated or simplified on your day-to-day, right? And in doing so, you'll probably therefore end up with search criteria to find technology that can solve for those day-to-day bottlenecks that you deal with.
Great takeaways. Additionally, we and I think it lends itself to that last bit. We like to share an action item, right? So I hear the takeaways. We've had this good conversation today, Adam, and they're like, all right, where do I start though? What's my first move? What do you think that first step needs to be?
Definitely. So it was kind of, to your point, recognizing that it's kind of, I guess, segueing off of those three takeaways is I would recommend that, you have a monthly meeting. You could do it less, you could do it more, but just in general, take 1 hour out of your month, sit with the team and say, hey, what are the administrative functions that we're doing every day that take a long time? Get a short list of what those functions are across your team, and then spend another hour, another 30 minutes, maybe the next month, maybe in that same month, looking for solutions that can solve for those issues to have a more effective day-to-day, have a more streamlined day-to-day. Technology is there to support you. So those would be my action items. And to kind of give a secondary approach to that is, if you don't feel comfortable or confident in managing that internally, then recognize there's lots of consultants that will support you in doing so. So you could hire a consultant, an individual who has a lot of experience both on the operation side and now on the tech side. I've seen so many of them, so many awesome people doing that today, and they'll support you through that process, right? Take an hour out of your month, and in the best case scenario, you have vetted and found a technology that will really support you immediately, and especially so moving to the future. And worst case scenario is you spent a few hours and didn't work. So that would be my takeaway, is just try to find innovation.
Yeah, never know until you try, right?
Exactly.
Well, before we let you go, Adam, we do like to give our guests a few rapid fire questions. So if you got a minute, I'd love to hit you with a few quick ones here.
Let's do it.
But what makes you the most energized about the work you're doing right now? It's easy to see that you're passionate about it, but what's driving that?
What's driving that is, coming from industry, I saw so much struggle between when construction finished and handoff into asset management, and then into that asset management, facility management. If something goes wrong, which of course is inevitable, the lack of information, the lack of ability to find how to resolve things from the construction data. So what really energizes me is thinking, all right, at some time soon, there's going to be this standard of technology that's going to simplify and better manage this critical documents, this critical data, for all of the end users to feel that outcome, right? What I mean by that is, all of us are, have involvement with a workplace, a home, an apartment, restaurants, social settings, infrastructure, schools, et cetera, et cetera. So I envision a scenario where projects are built on time and on budget. Solutions of existing properties are resolved in a much quicker and more efficient pace, all because of that tech backbone that's going to be a standard in the industry. So that kind of future outlook excites me, is everybody feeling the impact of real estate technology.
Yeah, agreed. And how about another one being, any mentors who helped you get to where you are today?
Totally, yeah. So I got two mentors to point out. One is my first boss when joining the industry. He really taught me. I think it's really neat, and it applies to really probably any industry, any position, is how to question all sides and all answers and all scenarios to the degree where you understand why people are giving you the answers that they are, And you therefore also understand where to push back or find more information if you feel that those answers aren't correct. So it's kind of this concept of value engineering in the industry, is gathering this pool of information and understanding how to disperse it, or where to disperse it, where to question, where to gather more backup information. So that was a really neat learning takeaway for me in my career there. And then the second, I gotta give a shout out to my dad, who managed to have an awesome career in business, have an awesome career in philanthropy, and also, of course, build a family. So he's my other inspiration on the kind of personal, but also all of the sides.
Absolutely. Last question. Where do you think firms struggle the most with tech adoption?
So I think it might be a twofold answer. One is that perception that I believe today is dated, that I touched on before, in terms of legacy product giving you a difficult to understand solution at a very high price point. So I think that needs to shift, needs to change, and understand that new tech exists that's breaking that friction. So I think that tends to be one friction point. And the second friction point is also something that I was alluding to in the takeaways, right? In the action items, is if you're a company and you don't feel that you have the internal capability of vetting and implementing solutions, then look for that external support, look for that consultant who will really manage it for you, especially when looking to new technology that is simple to implement and cost effective.
Yeah, I like that. Now, Adam, before we let you go, I gotta ask you, this is the Building Bite, that's building insurance technologies with the experts. You are today's expert. Where are you taking the bite out of today? It's a place near and dear to me, New York City. But there's a ton of places. So what's your favorite spot?
Yeah, there's so many places. I'm gonna give a shout out to a spot that's nearby my home called North Miznon. It's on 72nd Street, in between Columbus and Amsterdam, if I'm remembering that exactly correctly. It's an Israeli Mediterranean cuisine, like pretty casual, I'll call it, but great for all meals. So you got your breakfast, lunch, dinner, really just fun environment, fun way of serving dishes, really good food. I'll recommend that spot.
Awesome. I gotta get there next time I'm down. Well, Adam, thank you so much for chatting with us today. If our listeners want to hook up with you, where should they find you at?
Super active on LinkedIn. Find me there. Adam Stark. Also, our website, Jet.Build. That's .build, not .com, right? So it took the .build instead of .com. But those would be the two spots. Yeah, find me on LinkedIn or our website for sure.
All right. Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us, and hope we'll have you on in the near future.
Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for listening to The Building Bite. This podcast has been brought to you by Proactive. Check us out on thebuildingbite.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on social media for all future The Building Bite news and updates. You can also find us on your favorite apps, including Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Amazon. If you have ideas for episode topics that we should cover on the show, or you know somebody who would be a perfect guest, let us know at connect@thebuildingbite.com.